We are back, and just when we went into the break, Angelica, I saw some very exciting action happening in the game of David Navarra against Wang Liem, because it was the Czech Grandmaster who sacrificed an exchange for a pawn. So we are going to go there for a moment, but once again, very quickly, let's have at the overall rankings and what we can expect today from the final round of the GMT tournament.
Here you can see that we have Vincent Keimer currently leading the overall ranking with 31.5 points. After him, just half a point behind is Wang Liem, and after Wang Liem, a couple of points behind is David Navarra. We were discussing so many possible outcomes for today. Of course, in case Vincent Keimer wins, he's going to win it all.
That's right. A draw for Keimer might not be enough, because you see today he plays with black against Rigaisi. If Navarra against Wang Liem, one of them wins and draws, this means the winner of the game of Navarra against Wang Liem is going to become the champion. 3 potential winners might emerge victorious after today's round.
Absolutely incredible. What might happen, what is waiting for us today. And we can see that in one of the games, David Navarra already went all in, basically. I mean, not all.
I mean, he sacrificed a pawn, he sacrificed exchange for a pawn. Here, queen b5 was played, and knight c2. Okay, so this is essentially picking up the gauntlet. The Vietnamese grandmaster says, fine, do your worst. He is ready to accept as bishop takes on b7, which was played, rook b8, a6, and now white takes the exchange on a1. And the big question is, how do you properly evaluate this position? Because exchange for a pawn, in my book, Angelica, that's the absolute minimum material advantage there is. Because I treat bishop in open position 3.5 plus a pawn, that's 4.5 versus rook, which is 5. So that's essentially half a pawn in material. But there's also some other factors, like piece activity, like weaknesses, and we have them here. I mean, white has very strong bishops on e3 and b7. Also, the pawn on a7 makes an easy target.
What we should know that, of course, for the side with the rooks, the open files are essential. And in this position, we see that this bishop on b7 is blocking this b file with potential weakness on b2. Also, the d file is not that much open. So maybe that's what David Navarra is trying to claim. I have 2 bishops. I blocked some of your files. My bishop on b7 is very strong. How are you going to trade it?
Indeed. So knight e5 is played by Wang Liem because the last thing the Vietnamese grandmaster wants to do is see this white knight get on b5. Because if the queens disappear, let's say I'm going to make against some random move, h6, takes, knight b5. This could be very bad news, because white just takes, goes back, and promotes this pawn. And if black at some point decides to sacrifice the exchange back, which we might still see, then black, at the end of the day, simply has a worse pawn structure, and something along the lines of this position we kind of already saw in a different line.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is what might happen. So
but first, knight e5.
Big question, what happens after trade on d7 and trade on d5?
I think it's a million-dollar question, so to speak. So maybe 10,000 Swiss franc question, to be more accurate, because that's what's at stake here. Knight b5. You want to take the pawn on a7. I don't think we are going to see any knight e3 here. Most likely, take on b7, take, rook takes, presumably knight takes, and now you need to evaluate this position properly for white. I don't think Navarra wants to go here, because this looks simply too easy for black, right? Okay, he has one weakness on c5. His position is super solid. Include knight e3 or not. Takes, rook takes on b2, knight c6, and here. Do you really expect that black is going to lose this? Could be difficult. And that's why here Navarra, he also expects that black would sacrifice the exchange for a pawn back.
Okay, so what else could be possible here? I mean, bishop d2 looks like a normal move. But then again, queen trade on...
Just
maybe
a second. Okay,
yeah,
queen trade already happened.
yeah, it looks pretty much forcing. The question here is knight d5 if he's going to trade.
I'm not
knight.
sure if that was necessary to take on d7, but okay, fine. I mean, my point is that with the queen on b5 and the rook on d8, black still cannot sacrifice the exchange on b7. So I would have thought there's some other moves as well. There are some quieter moves like queen b3. There are quieter moves like maybe queen c4. Bishop d2, knight c3, of course, is an issue. Intermassive move, check on e2, which you already said, right? So I would definitely spend some time here. But okay, David already made up his mind. Queen d7, rook d7. Now the big question.
What if knight takes d5?
Take. How do you deal with this threat? Maybe there's something.
There is bishop c6, and if rook c7 or d6, there is bishop f4.
And if I just go back? Could be a draw.
And then you have to go back, yeah?
I'm not sure you have to, but I don't think that black would really mind, because I don't think that here in this position the Vietnamese grandmaster has any ambition to play for a win, because this bishop on b7 looks simply too strong. With the pawn on a6, if this bishop crashes through, this is just bad news for black. So he would, I think he wants to sacrifice the exchange on b7.
Could we take one more time, one more glance, and this takes, and here b4?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I did not yet manage to calculate anything. Takes. Again, the
Bishop
same
f7.
idea. Takes. It's simply not working. Black actually is better.
Yeah.
Material balance on the board. Black has an outside pass pawn. If Navarro took on d7, he already has the next move. So what is it? I can easily imagine him playing something like knight e4. Attack the pawn. A wide trade.
Yeah, but then again, there could be trade on e3 and trade on b7.
That's right. That's what I actually wanted. And now I'm dreaming about the position to get the knight on c4. That's what I want. So if I get the knight on c4, you have a pretty useless bishop. I have a great knight. So, but the question is, how do you get there? Maybe something like rook a2. You can't play bishop f6. I take probably on c5. Rook b2 takes, so you have back rank issues.
But you can...
Yeah?
No, it's not possible, yeah.
And if you don't do that, you play something like f5. I could go here, bishop f6, knight c4. Maybe this is something that Navarro wants. Have some better chances in the endgame. King f2, king f3, 4, rook a6 at some point, activate the rook. Something like this I can easily imagine happening. But again, does he really want to facilitate black to take this bishop on b7, or he wants to complicate the matters a little bit? Because I think this rook takes on b7 is almost inevitable. Because bishop c6 could be a move, by the way. Maybe it's a trickier move. Bishop c6 here, knight e5 takes bishop f4. Thank you for exchange.
Yeah.
But let's say you play rook
but
d8.
rook d8, yeah.
That's the point, right?
Knight b5.
But I have a feeling your pieces are going to become quite tangled here. Let's say here, 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 here. How does the knight get out? Knight c8? It just looks not right.
Looks sus.
I don't know. I mean, if this pawn goes forward, white wins, of course.
But knight c8 is a threat, so like in that position, yeah.
Right. I think also Navarra is looking for some clarity. And this bishop c6, knight b5, knight a7, you make one mistake, then it's just bad. So, once again, knight e4, can I do this? I attack this pawn. And if, it's a big if, of course, if black sacrifices the exchange, like, you can't do it immediately because I think you just drop a pawn. Takes, back rank issues. Black is not in time to win the pawn on e2, right? At least very quickly looking at this, it looks tempting. Also, bishop c5, by the way, is a move. So probably before that, black takes here, takes on b7, or does he? Yeah, that's a different question. Does he take on b7 at all? Or he does not? Because the pawn on a7 now is sort of protected. But anyway, if we assume that black indeed does this, then this idea becomes quite nice.
Yeah.
But now that I look at this position, it's not so obvious if black really has to give up the exchange.
Yeah, because now there is no bishop on e3. There is always this, ideas of attacking that pawn. But okay, till knight gets there, maybe then black will decide to give back the exchange. But for now, black doesn't have to do it, right? Black could play something like some useful move, like maybe starting bringing the king, maybe king f8 or h6 or anything.
What about f5, bishop f6 or bishop g5? Oh, could be. It could be, but I think this bishop and the rook, they might be, bishop and the pawn, it might be the same strength as the rook on b8. And that's why Navarre is not rushing. He's still thinking. He's evaluating this position. Knight b5 basically forces black to sacrifice the exchange, and this is where this knight perhaps on b5 is not really well positioned. Knight a3, knight c4. I think he wants to keep the pawn on b2. So what's the key move here?
That's a big question. What?
There could be some quiet move. There could be some rook a5. I mean, I see a lot of interesting moves. I see knight e4. Try to get the knight on c4. I see knight e5 also has to be calculated. Bishop c6 has to be calculated. Rook a5, to some extent, makes sense because I'm attacking this pawn. And if you, let's say, go here once again and